Good morning, y'all. It's Noelle with Baker's Backyard Bounty. It is bright and early this morning. We're getting ready for the farmer's market. So I just wanted to show you guys kind of like what we worked on last night, got all the bouquets done, and transporting them is really the fun part of my life. I don't know how we're gonna do it. All right, so our dining room turns into our work table, but I love how these turned out. They're so funky and eclectic and groovy. So I have some smaller ones at like a smaller price point. Over here, truck is loaded and we're heading out. We did it. All right, we did it. So we have 15 bouquets out here today. We have small, medium, and large, so 3 different price points. One of the things when I was setting up for the farmer's market, like if you're interested in doing this, I played around with a lot of different tablecloths and it just took away from the product. So black tablecloths, I got these on Amazon. These again are vases that we get from thrift stores and just collect. Look at how these turned out. I love it. We have just signage with like some vintage frames, and I just printed on some cardstock like my Venmo account, PayPal, Square, just so people know quickly how to pay. We use Square for our Square reader for the swiping. And let's see, I got a mesh sign from Office Depot so that the wind can blow through it, and it was like $80, I think. A worthy investment. They did a really good job. I designed it on Canva and then just uploaded it to Office Depot, and they printed it and mailed it straight to my house. So that was a really easy thing to do. We give flower food for each person that buys a bouquet, and so good morning, Reed.
Yo.
We just do this groovy little stamp and fill it up with our bulk flower food and send it home so that when people replace the water, they're able to have a fresh bouquet for weeks to come. I think there's a saying in farmers market world, like stack it high and watch it fly. So basically getting some height on your table. So I'll show you guys how we do that. This is just an oval tablecloth, and I have 2 buckets and just a metal tray, a big metal tray that I got at a thrift store. And so I put the tray on top of the buckets, just drape the oval tablecloth around. I said it's not supposed to wrinkle, but it kind of did. And that serves as my little pedestal. It's super easy. We have the best seat in the house. I have my phone balancing in some basil and it smells so good, even though it's knocking it over. Okay, hey y'all. Okay, we are back home. This is a couple days after the market. The market was awesome. We did great. It was the most that we have made at a market thus far. And I would love to do a video on like the nuts and bolts of like how much we spent this year on our startup costs for the market and then how much we made. So just stay tuned for that. But yeah, market was awesome. We were exhausted by the end of it. You can tell it's like kind of like a 2-day process, but it's so fun. Like it's worth it in the end. I always feel so much like pride and joy and glory at the end of it, even though in the middle of it sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we doing this? But it makes sense why we do it. We build community and share beautiful flowers. And I have a giant pile of laundry. Like, actually, I don't have a couch anymore. I just have like a pile of laundry, which my kids and my dogs still sit on because it's still comfortable on the piles of laundry. But I am not doing that right now because my kids started school this week and it's just kind of been like a game changer. We haven't had really like a kidless day in 3 years maybe, because both of them started this year, and it's good for them, good for us. They just go 2 days a week, but we're so grateful for this program, little Mother's Day out. Anyways, so it's giving me a lot of time to actually like get things done. You know, as a mom, like as your baby comes out of the womb, I think like mom guilt just like flows out as well. Like it's just a part of motherhood. But I'm constantly like all day long just trying to really balance just the push and pull between like these are my goals and things I want to do, and then trying to be present with my kids and let them be involved, even though like real talk, as I've talked about in videos past of like homesteading with toddlers, like it kind of can be a hot mess a lot of the time, right? Like I want to have them engaged, but then there's flour all over my kitchen floor, or I want to have them engaged out here, but then all the green tomatoes get picked. So anyways, with them being in school, they're getting nurtured and some socialization while mom gets to have some just like guilt-free time. And that could be a whole video on mom guilt. It's like a crazy weird thing, but just some like uninhibited, unrestricted time to just like be out here doing what I love by myself. Let me just show you these ugly tomatoes. Okay, so obviously I did not stay on top of my Florida weave, so the tomatoes were so tall that they just kind of flopped over. But y'all, these will still produce tomatoes. Reed's just been cleaning up like the dead branches, and again, they're just atrocious looking, but they will produce tomatoes. Like, I don't think this is our best plan perhaps, but we're rolling with it. So I love growing heirloom varieties. Like, I just love the different colors and the stories, and it's all really romantic to me. What I will say though is like, and this is the yin and yang of Reed and I, Reed is much more into like, let's find varieties that really produce well, because the goal is to feed our family, and then pepper in some of these heirlooms. But really all the varieties in this tomato bed, and I think there's like 17 or 18 plants, they're heirlooms. And I really want to, over time, kind of hone my heirloom tomato, I don't know, obsession, so that like we do get a good production. Because just honestly, the past 2 to 3 years, like we haven't had that many tomatoes until like early in the season and then late in the season. This is also due to the fact that our beds are oriented for full sun, but actually full sun doesn't mean necessarily like 14 hours of sun. That's actually detrimental. And I didn't realize that, like I'm learning still, right? So like these beds actually get what we would maybe say too much sun, because really full sun is like, I think like 6 to 8 hours qualifies as full sun. And that way they get a break from the heat either in the morning or the afternoon. These bad boys are in sun like all day long. And I thought that would be great for peppers and tomatoes, like heat-loving crops, but it's too much. So what we're doing with that next year is maybe just swapping some things around so that I can grow flowers here, because zinnias can handle like that much heat. And some other of my varieties like Gomphrena and the amaranth can actually handle that much heat. See, that's amaranth right there. So we're thinking about like making more flower space over here and doing our veg patch all the way down the side of the house, where it could get some shade my brain in the afternoon. So like more to come on that, but just know that like if you're seeking out full sun, it doesn't mean it has to be blazing all day long. That's actually detrimental. So we harvested a bunch of shishito peppers. If you're not growing those, you definitely should be. They're pretty like trendy nowadays, but Reed and I had them for the first time. We were traveling in Europe together, and in Spain we had these peppers, and they were amazing, and they had flaky sea salt on them, and we like had to ask like, what are these? And anyways, we started growing them, and they became popular. But shishito peppers, we like to eat them with Asian stir fries as an appetizer. So we like blister them in the toaster oven just with olive oil and sea salt, and then make like a little dipping sauce out of just like mayo, garlic powder, lemon juice, like an aioli, and they're amazing. So we harvested all of those and ate them all. I think that was 2 nights ago. But what I have now are just like these little jalapenos. They might be nata-pinos. I planted both, but I don't remember where I planted them. So they either have some heat or no heat. A nata-pino is a jalapeno without the heat. So I don't know exactly what I want to do with these yet. I have a bunch of tomatillos coming in, so I could do like a green salsa, which would be good with these. Or I might make candied jalapenos. like for rice bowls or chili, just things like that. I've never made candied jalapenos before, but let me know if you have and what you use them on, because they just sound delicious. So just keeping it real, like the garden this time of year reminds me of like a bad haircut that's still growing out. Like it's in that awkward phase. So things from the summer have been petering out and I've pulled those. So there's like bald spots in the garden. And then like with my ugly tomato patch, we're just like praying that there's like potential in those vines, and there will be. Tomatoes will come. They already are starting to flower and bud out. But it doesn't look the most beautiful. I notice every season at this time of year, like I get really excited for the fall garden, but like my seed starts with the broccoli and cauliflower and all that is still in the garage, and they're just small. And out here, like I said, it's just kind of a little cattywampus looking. I lose my motivation. Like I am so outcome oriented that like if it's beautiful, I'm in. But like if it's hard and kind of then I kind of just feel, like it's just this lack of inspiration or lack of motivation. So I'm always talking about how the garden teaches us more about ourselves, being a therapist, right? Like counseling works, but also gardening works in different ways of learning about yourself. But what I'm learning about myself here after reading a Chinese proverb this morning from my farmer's almanac calendar, it said, all the flowers of the future are held in the seeds of today. Deep. That could be like on so many levels, right? Like the future is with our children, and the seeds we plant today is what manifests into our dreams, and like the metaphorical seeds, but also like literally the crop that I want to come to fruition is in the seeds today, which means I have to nurture the little baby seeds, and I have to put the seeds in the ground, and I have to water them diligently until they germinate. And these are all things that like I struggle with, which sounds so silly, but anytime that I feel myself kind of butting up against resistance to working in the garden whenever it's in between seasons and not in the glory, is I play that song in my head, Brandy Carlisle. What is it? If you want to grow a garden, you're gonna have to sow the seeds. That one. I want a house with a crowded table. Da-na-na. Just look it up. Like, she does a much better job, obviously, but if you want a garden, you're gonna have to sow the seeds. If you want a garden, you're gonna have to sow the seeds, which means do the work when it's kind of ugly and boring. So anyways, that's my process for today. So I've talked about this before, but I wanted to be really intentional on encouraging you guys after I just talked about how I've been having a hard time like lighting the fire to really push and do some work out here. I want to encourage you guys to think about making some garden beds in your backyard for spring. So sometimes we think like, oh, like I want to start gardening. I want to grow some spring flowers. I want to, start growing like some snap peas and tomatoes. And that's all groovy and awesome. However, oftentimes the soil, when you just throw a garden bed together like that season, it's not as juicy and wonderful and productive as it could be. So if you're thinking about gardening in your backyard, actually fall is an amazing time to start building some garden beds. And the way you can do that, the way we've done all of our garden beds, and it's worked out really well for us, is with a no-till, no-dig method. They also call it like lasagna gardening. What you're gonna wanna do is source some cardboard, and you take off all the duct tape, like the plastic wrapping, if there's any of that on, or advertisements like on the boxes, because that won't actually break down over time. But you get a layer of cardboard. We got some on the Nextdoor app. Someone was giving away a lot of cardboard after moving, and I think they actually used some for their garden as well. So we sourced it for free, just a bunch of cardboard, and you can do that on Facebook Marketplace or like I said, the Nextdoor app, or even just driving around on recycling day and finding cardboard. Lay down a nice layer, and so we kind of like overlap so that the weeds can't come up in between the pieces of cardboard. So a nice layer of cardboard, wet it down, like just water it in really good. And then on top of that, and you don't have to like kill the grass or anything, this is gonna smother the grass for you and kill the grass for you. On top of that, you layer a thick layer of garden soil, compost, and then mulch. You just make it really thick, like a hearty, delicious lasagna. And continue just to water it in, allow it to like marinate. It's just gonna start breaking down over time. The beneficial microbes will start growing. And then in the spring, you're gonna be ready for a really good garden season. It's really hard to have patience, like I was talking about earlier, planting the seeds now for the fruit to come later. But if you make your garden bed now in your backyard on top of your grass, it's like low maintenance, just let it marinate, then you're gonna have a really awesome spring and summer garden. And it just takes the investment of time and energy right now. But it's really like pretty cost effective. Wood chips you can source from Chip Drop. It's an app where they come and dump. You don't really know how much they're gonna dump or when, but they give you a huge dump of wood chips from Chipper, like a company that does trees, arborists. I don't know what they are. What are they? They just bring you the wood chips. So Chip Drop is a really good one, or you can just buy your own wood chips, but try and make it as like natural, like not the dyed wood chips and all that jazz, just like natural organic material. If that's your jam, it's our jam. We try not to use a lot of like chemicals or fertilizers or pesticides, things like that, just because we're gonna be eating this stuff. And I just like knowing where it's coming from and that it's nice and clean. That is one of the things, like I didn't realize when I first started out, like gardening can be expensive, like the initial investment. We grow pretty much everything from seed now. And so that's actually like pretty cheap to get a pack of seeds and grow for a few seasons, fruits and vegetables and flowers. But if you make that initial investment and just like get creative, like start making your own compost now so that you can put a nice healthy layer on in the spring, right? And you have some material to use. Compost is easy. You can even use just like a big tub or a big bucket, but putting those coffee grounds and food scraps and like water and brown material like newspaper and leaves, like start making your compost now so that in the spring you're ready to rock and roll. Start making your garden beds now so that your backyard can turn into a bountiful place. Like it's a lot easier than we think, and we can be resourceful and creative so that it doesn't have to like break the bank. Again, we use cinder blocks instead of like nice like treated wood, and that works for us for now. We might replace it in the future. We use free straw bales to grow all our melons and some tomatoes. So like it doesn't have to be glamorous, just get started. Because I think that's how we're gonna change the world, is not with big farms, because y'all, real estate and acreage, it'd be pricey. That's really not like accessible for most of us. Backyards, the suburbs, we can flip the script, start growing our own food, which is a very revolutionary act to drop out of the food system in that way. And it's also healing like mind and heart. So like our nervous system needs to garden, it needs dirt, it needs nature. So I just feel like we can solve so many problems one backyard at a time. So let me know if you are getting going, if this is your first season, and I would love to help you in any way I can to get your backyard up and going. Okay, I think I'm now going to go tackle that laundry couch because I got some shows to watch, some YouTubes to watch in a little bit for my chill time. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. May you find the bounty in your own life and all the beauty that it holds. And I hope that I can spark some inspiration in you to just get going. All right, cheers. Have a great week.